Hey guys, welcome back to the Area 480 podcast where we're up, unlike the Thunder.
Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Area 480 podcast. Um, Today we got a kind of special episode because as we record right now, it's the fourth quarter of Game 7 between the Spurs and Thunder. So we're kind of going to be reacting to that while we talk. It'll probably be over by the time we're done, so we'll obviously be talking about the outcome as well.
Sure can't wait to kind of do something new.
Who doesn't love a little play-by-play every once in a while from one of the best series thus far in all of playoffs in 2026?
Yeah, and of course, with the best series, it's going to be a good game, and right now it's real close when going into the fourth.
Yeah, but obviously Thunder were in Game 7 of the finals last year, so we'll see how they handle Game 7 in the Western Conference Finals.
Yeah, hopefully we see a Spurs dub.
Well, I guess while we wait for the fourth quarter to get underway in this game, we'll just start off with the MLB to hit it out of the ballpark early.
All right, let's get into
Unfortunately.
it. I think we should talk about the Athletics going on a, you know, 4-game lose streak and 4 for 6 in the last 10 games as the Mariners pass them in a close AL West.
Yeah, the AL West, none of the teams have really been very good to start the year, so that means it's been a really competitive division. Um, the Astros and Rangers have been really injured this year. Um, both of them have looked better as of recently, but the A's, who had been leading the division for most of the year, have kind of, fallen off a little bit here. Like Max said, they've lost four in a row, 4 and 6 in their last 10. The Mariners, who have caught fire recently, have passed them and now are in first place. Only team in the division over 500. They just walked off the D-backs last night. What do you guys think about that?
I mean, the Mariners could be up, but I think this division's still pretty close. You look at the Rangers; they're just a game back from the Athletics, and I don't know. I mean, I want to see the Mariners on top. It's fun that they're catching some heat. You know, bats are going, everything's working. Yeah, I mean, it was kind of weird to see the Athletics at the top, so I guess I'm a little happy to see something normal going on in the AL West because everything else has kind of been all over the place.
Exactly. And this was a team that at the very start of the season was really close, if not the bottom of the division. And that's like if you want to be able to win a championship, you got to be able to build back and, you know, work your way up to the top of the division like they have now, sitting at 500. Big walk off last night against a really good team out west in the Diamondbacks. So obviously seeing stuff like that is obviously big for the future of this team going into the playoffs later on down the season. As we speak, Wemby hit a big three, and then who was it? Carson Wallace just came back, hit a another big three. Uh, Thunder down two currently.
Yeah, one other staple of the AL West that will always be there is the Angels being bad. They're at the bottom of the division like usual. But yeah, it's just rough for the A's lately. But to go from a team on a losing streak to a team on a winning streak, the Yankees have won five in a row, and now they're just within a game of the Rays. This is obviously before they play tonight, so they might pass them today because I know the Rays lost. Um, what do you guys think about the Yankees catching fire here?
I mean, again, kind of like just what we normally see in another league that's been a little interesting with the Red Sox being at the bottom, Blue Jays being at third under 500. Uh, Yankees being back up there makes sense. I mean, we expect them to be one of the better teams. I mean, they're a good team. They haven't been bad, but we thought they'd be first. I didn't think anyone thought the Rays would be first, especially above the Blue Jays.
Yeah, they've definitely looked like the Rays of old, where they just take like a bunch of kind of like unknown players and are somehow one of the best teams in the league. But as of recently, they've kind of been middling around. And the Yankees, who have gotten some of their injured players back, have kind of looked like what we thought they would look like coming into the year, and now they're kind of looking like they might take over the division.
This is
Yeah.
a Yankees team that I believe is one of only a handful of teams that could win a championship this year. So obviously seeing this is big. You know, they are just behind the Rays in the division, but obviously that's something they can overcome.
Yeah, I was just saying that when you look in when we're on the topic of AL East in the last 10 games, the Blue Jays have gone 7-3. They don't really have like as much weapons as the Rays or the Yankees have this season. They didn't really have a decent offseason, but I mean, maybe they catch heat, maybe they go on a run, and we'll see another Blue Jays playoff run.
Yeah, it's obviously still early in the year. I know they just had a heartbreaking loss to the Orioles today where Jeff Hoffman gave up 5 runs in the ninth, and the Orioles walked him off. But yeah.
What's surprising, you know, you see Jeff Hoffman walking in with his music, and you already know the game's cooked at that point.
That's Brandon Fott.
That's I was gonna say Paul Sewald, but he's top two in
He's actually not been
saves.
that bad this year. Um, yeah, but going off of that, I guess we could talk about how the AL Central, two of the teams I feel like people would have thought could have competed for the division of with like two of the worst teams in the league with the Royals and the Tigers. I know obviously both teams have had their share of injuries, but I feel like the Royals, when you have a top, arguably three player in the sport on your team and Bobby Witt Jr., it's hard to fathom how you can be so bad. Obviously, we've covered the Tigers before. They have a lot of injuries, like I said, but how do you guys feel about that?
Again, another weird division. I mean, we all expected the Guardians to kind of be one. I thought the Guardians would be second place, because we all thought the Tigers were going to come back and kind of lead the league. But it's been really interesting. I mean, we've kind of had the same thing throughout the season. It's just it's early in the year, but like the Tigers are at the bottom, it's kind of interesting to see it, and it's kind of just stuck. I feel like the Tigers, we know they've been riddled with injuries, but I just feel like they're so, I don't know, they're too far away to, I think, even make it to the playoffs this year. I know it's a little early. I feel like we're pretty deep in the season to take that not take that into account, but I just don't think the Tigers really have it to, bounce back to first. I think Cleveland's got it.
This seems to be the division of trash versus garbage this year.
I mean,
Um,
the White Sox being second was
Yeah, that I
never in
was.
my book.
Yeah.
I was gonna say obviously there are some shining parts on a couple of these teams in this division, but for the most part, you know don't see any of these teams being that competitive in the playoffs, and if they are, I don't think any of them really make it to a World Series.
Yeah, no, I don't think there's really anything special going on in the Central.
Yeah. I mean, outside of the White Sox being like having one of the most historic turnaround seasons ever, I feel like I don't know. It's rough for the Tigers when you lose your back-to-back Cy Young pitcher and then, other injuries, of course. But yeah, I guess we could just talk about this now since we mentioned the White Sox already. But Munetaka Murakami is out 4 to 6 weeks, um, which is a huge blow for them. I know Miguel Vargas is probably going to move over to first now. He hit a walk-off homer the other day when he was playing first. But yeah, just a huge blow for them after, one of the best stories of the league, I feel like, after some people were questioning how good he was going to be, and he looked like one of the breakout stars of the season. To see him land on the IL for that period of time pretty is a big blow for the White Sox.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we could really debate and say he's kind of been that key point in why their season's gone the way it has. And, we'll kind of see how much that team was kind of led and carried by him in these next 4 to 6 weeks. I think it's unfortunate. It's not fun to see when you have a young star coming in, kind of tearing up the league, being at the top of the stat and home runs. It's always fun to see a guy like that, and unfortunate to see someone go down with an injury, especially someone that's playing at his level.
You know, someone the caliber of the South Side Samurai is not someone you want to see go down, especially for fans who have had really virtually nothing to cheer for in these past couple seasons. And now you have a bright shining spot that is just lighting up the field, knocking home runs out of the ballpark on a consistent basis. And then, you know, obviously that's a big blow for the not only the team but also the fans.
Yeah, I mean, for a team whose last big highlight in the last couple of years was Lucas Giolito's no hitter, now to have Munetaka Murakami come in and get hurt, I mean, it's unfortunate. It sucks. I mean, as a baseball fan, you don't like to see it either.
Yeah, it seemed like they were destined to be pretty good for a few years to come when they made the playoffs in 21, I believe. And then, they had Tim Anderson and Yohan Moncada, Eloy Jimenez, Lucas Giolito, but all those guys kind of flamed out and, all of them are on the verge of being out of the league, it feels like. So, crazy to see that turn around. But yeah.
Obviously it is a bummer when you have, fun guys to watch like Tim Anderson who went crazy when they played at the Field of Dreams. And, Max did mention that he's one of the shining spots, like action wise. But obviously Tim Anderson getting his bell rung, obviously was a pretty big moment for this White Sox franchise. But obviously, yeah, they had like people like Luis Robert and Eloy Jimenez, which weren't able to get it done. Obviously he's unfortunate for Eloy Jimenez. I do have his bat in my house, but that just goes to show that his career is pretty much over
And
because he doesn't even need his bat anymore.
man, don't mess with J Ram. He's not only a hard hitter when it comes in baseballs, he could throw a mean right hook.
Um, all right. Um, I'm gonna go out of order just because we're talking about the AL Central, but I know I know we've harped on this team already, but the Tigers are getting Casey Mize back. I know he's not like a top caliber starter in the league, but he's a serviceable guy. He's been like above average. And especially when they lose Scooble and Framber Valdez hasn't really lived up to his expectations, it'll be nice to just get a rock back in the rotation like that to help them maybe salvage their season. It might be too far gone, but we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, like you've kind of said, when you lose your guy that's been your guy for 2 years and Framber Valdez, who you expected to come in and kind of, you know, make that turnaround to kind of give them not only a playoff push, but make it deeper into the playoffs. Casey Mize stepping up is actually in my opinion, a big game changer for them. Maybe they'll be able to kind of take third. I don't think they're really going to be able to, unless the White Sox just can't really compete without Murakami. I think the Tigers could finish third or second if Casey Mize can kind of help turn around their season and hold them while they battle injuries and kind of wait for everyone to get back.
Yeah, the injuries do play a big part in it. Obviously, getting someone solid like him back into the lineup is going to be huge. But as far as someone trying like this, Casey being a big part of helping trying to turn a team that's barely um just barely below 400 in the win-loss percentage. It's going to be a very tough task and a huge hill to climb out of, especially if you are solid, just knowing that your team has been, kind of mid to start the season.
Yeah. I guess we could just finish off the rest of these injuries before getting to the one piece of good news we have on here. But the Marlins you lose Yuri Perez. I guess he hurt himself stretching in the dugout, and he's out for 8 weeks now. And then Teoscar Hernandez and Dylan Cease both strained their hamstrings, so they're going to be out for a little bit. But just huge blows to. I know the Marlins haven't looked as competitive as they did to start the year, but for the Blue Jays and Dodgers, those are both some pretty big blows to their teams.
Yeah, I mean, what isn't Kike hurt too?
Yeah,
I'm
I think he
sure.
just like completely tore his oblique or something after he just
Yeah,
came back.
yeah, I'm sure. I don't feel bad for him at all because it really isn't going to hurt him at all. But I'm sure Dodgers fans are pretty sad to lose both Hernandezes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think it'll hurt them too much when it comes to, fan base will be sad, but I don't think it'll hurt them too much when it comes to just winning games and competing.
Yeah.
It is the Dodgers, so if anyone can overcome a couple injuries like that, it's going to be them with especially even if they do lose a couple of I don't think they should be worried, especially with run differential and looking at all that stuff when they are healthy. This is a obviously World Series contending team. And kind of looking at the other side of that coin, with their counterpart in the World Series when you're talking about Dylan Cease, not only is he injured, but also the fans are injured. Watching him walk into the dugout without his mustache because he did shave it off is obviously a unfortunate sight for MLB fans.
Yeah. Um, all right. The one piece of good news we have though is that today Fernando Tatis Jr. Finally got that first home run of the 2026 season. Um, I know people were clowning on him because of the video that came out when he got asked what's his favorite stat, and he said his home runs, and he hadn't hit any. Um, but now he has one. It was kind of a nuke too off the Nationals today. Uh,
Yeah.
do you guys think that'll like rejuvenate him to get that off his shoulders, or you think he's still just gonna be like kind of mid?
I think he definitely needed that. He hasn't had a terrible season when you look at other stats, but yeah, he's lacking home runs. I mean, he's not having a bad season, but I'm sure he'd like to be doing a lot better. And especially from a guy who, when he first kind of got into the league and Slam Diego was a thing, you had a lot of fun watching him play. So I think it'd be fun to watch Fernando Tatis get back to that level of play he was at the last couple years.
Hmm. This is pretty big news that he's getting his first home run this late in the season, especially for a Padres team that's 32 and 25. And knowing that your best player on the team hasn't hit a home run up until this point is obviously kind of crazy looking that they're second in a stacked National League West.
Yeah, it's crazy how good they've been with their offensive inconsistencies. A lot of their highest paid players have been struggling this year. Um, but that just shows how good their pitching has been, I guess, especially their bullpen.
Yeah,
I don't think
here
they
we
have what
go.
it takes to.
Mason Miller Glaze incoming.
I didn't even say anything about it. I
You
don't
brought
think
up
they
their
have what it takes
bullpen.
to compete with the Dodgers, but obviously fighting for a wild card spot, it's going to be huge for them.
Yeah, the D-backs will take that second place spot.
Yeah, and Gabe was telling me before the podcast that he was saying that he doesn't think that the Padres can compete against this Dodgers team. But I mean, if they do end up playing a series against them, if they're able to keep their runs down a little bit, having someone like the caliber of Mason Miller coming in there to shut out a game is obviously going to be big. And
Yeah.
keeping this Dodgers team at bay.
I mean, when you have the greatest closer of all time on your team, it's obviously possible to do anything. But
What?
the only problem is that with how good the Dodgers rotation is, I don't think the Padres will be able to score enough runs to keep up with them.
Yeah, I mean the Padres are 3-7 in their last 10, so maybe they're kind of going on a little downward slope.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of all we had down for the MLB, just because, it's kind of just getting to that flow of the season. But if you guys have anything else to talk about,
I mean, yeah, I think we're all straight on this end. Um, I think we could just kick it over to the ML or NFL.
all right. We don't got much for the NFL just because, it's kind of that weird stage between like the big off-season stuff and like OTAs. There has been some news, but it might be too controversial for us to cover on this.
Um, Obviously we do have some, like he was saying, controversial stuff. Unfortunately, Josh Jacobs is in trial and potentially will be getting arrested for the abuse of his girlfriend. Um, obviously don't want to touch on this subject too much, and we want to get into the fun. What's more fun than watching nine play the shortest quarterback in the league, Kyler Murray, for a start on the Vikings, especially after going through Daniel Jones and Sam Darnold. What could be better than a position battle between these two guys?
Man, it's give me 9 and it's not even close.
Yeah, for how like good the Vikings have been, like I guess since I started watching football, I feel like their quarterback situation, when you look back on it, hasn't been like the best. Like obviously Kirk Cousins was good when he was there, but like um I mean Case Keenum was the one who delivered the Minneapolis Miracle. Sam Darnold was good when he was there, but like no one thought he was going to be. Um Nine, Max Brosmer, I don't know, a lot of other guys, but
Kirko Chains.
yeah, he's probably been the best one.
Yeah.
But just like looking back, like I feel like the Vikings just need to like end up finding a guy if they're ever gonna like open up a Super Bowl window.
Exactly. Finding a guy is going to be play a huge part in this. I mean, if we're being honest, we know that Kyler Murray is probably going to get the start over nine. He hasn't been playing that well. He's dealt with a couple injuries so far in his early career. Um, but yeah, obviously, getting a little mentorship from Kyler, which is kind of crazy to say because he hasn't really done much either. Just a little bit more established in the league. But it does seem like they have a decent quarterback situation. The only thing is there seems to be a little bit of turmoil coming from JJ McCarthy side, just
Yeah.
kind of saying stuff like the QB room kind of feels like two students sitting on opposite sides of the classroom, kind of just hinting that they don't really like each other, but they're just kind of battling for that number one spot. Obviously, hearing other stuff from Kyler Murray, it's a pretty interesting QB battle as of right now, even though majority of fans know that it's going to probably be Kyler Murray ending up as QB1.
Yeah, I don't know. I always thought it was a little interesting that he ended up in Minnesota. I always felt like, he'd probably go somewhere where he wasn't, they had a guaranteed starter and he was just there. Because I just don't really know what he's going to be able to teach McCarthy. I feel like at that point, you have a young quarterback, you want to get a veteran there that had a few good seasons, can kind of give you some. I'm not saying Kyler Murray didn't have good seasons. I'm just like, what's he going to teach him how to not get injured or how to, you know, rehab the proper way? Because I don't really know what else he's bringing to the table.
Yeah, I mean, he might be able to say, like, teach him what it's like to beat tough teams.
Yeah,
I mean, obviously, the Bears, the Lions, and the Packers are no pushover teams, especially in this division, but um, they're definitely not a Rams or a Seahawks level competition. Obviously, Kyler Murray hasn't had the most success in the NFC West, but going to the NFC North is not an easier task by any means.
Yeah, you know, Kyler has been like a serviceable quarterback. He's definitely had his moments like in 2021.
yeah, that was when they had that crazy
Yeah,
run.
when they started undefeated and ended up not really doing much with it, but he's had his moments. But as far as like a first overall pick, like he's supposed to come in and change your franchise, especially like winning a Heisman in college and stuff. He hasn't really lived up to those standards, I would say. But like, I don't know, he doesn't really seem like a Kevin O'Connell guy either. Like, he doesn't feel
Yeah,
like just like a pocket passer guy who can just like deliver throws over the middle, especially with like his height and stuff. Um, so I don't really know. If I had to bet right now, I know there's still a long way to go until the season starts, obviously, but I would think they just start off the season with Kyler just to see what they have. But you kind of got to feel bad for Justin Jefferson, the quarterback situation he's had these recent years.
yeah. I don't know, man. We gotta stop digging on Kyler Murray. He's gonna sit us down and tell him all about his accolades outside of NFL and just give us all of his college stats and everything because that matters in the NFL.
Hey, he went undefeated in Texas high school football.
Which has never been done before.
Um, Obviously we're kind of on the side of Justin Jefferson in this situation. Like Larry Fitzgerald wasn't a better receiver and had worse quarterbacks throughout his career. He did go to a Super Bowl but did lose, but that's besides the point. But also, Kyler Murray is just he looks, obviously in his media impressors, he looks like he's, that good guy that they want around. But as a Cardinals fan, knowing that he's had some issues with having a clause to not play like Call of Duty and like
Yeah.
having production issues when double XP weekend comes out is obviously kind of a concern. Obviously, it was a joke, but there is some signs showing that he might be a little bit more focused in other areas. And, there's obviously some other off the field issues that he has his own issues with. So it'll be interesting to see what this Vikings team does.
Yeah, especially after adding Jawan Jennings too. Whichever quarterback starts is going to have some decent weapons and obviously a really good coach to help him out. But yeah, I don't feel like either of those guys offer very much.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Well, uh, passing on from that point, um, we're gonna slide right into hockey. Talk about this Canes Golden Knights matchup in the Stanley Cup Finals.
Let's get into it.
Um, you know, the So the Golden Knights, they do end up winning 4-1 against the Avalanche. Um, or I mean, they sweep the Avalanche. My fault. Um, this is something that I wanted to say I was surprised about because this is a Avalanche team that I think had the best offense in the league. But I did mention on the last podcast that the President's Cup, the winner of that has pretty much been cursed for now going to be the past 11 seasons, not being able to win the whole thing seems to stay along with that. And the Hurricanes win 4-1 against the Canadians. Obviously, I did think that they were going to win that series. I did mention though that that 11 games off could play a role in it. They did end up losing the first game, and their goalie, who only allowed 5 goals up until this round, let up 6 goals in the first game. So they'll be
Yeah.
moving on. What do you guys think?
Um, I mean, like you kind of talked about, the Canadians goalie was dominant throughout the playoffs, and I think in this whole series gave up 15. You know, he kind of I mean he's a young goalie. It just seemed like he had a tough stretch those last couple of games against a good offense. Just unfortunate to see. You know, it'll be fun to kind of see how he bounces back and how the Canadians kind of come back. But when it comes to the matchup, I think it'll be fun to see one of these deeper. Like I feel like these two rosters had some of the deeper rosters in the NHL playoffs so far. So it'll be kind of fun to see how they matched up. It doesn't seem like it, from what I've read and seen, not a lot of people are excited about this finals matchup, but maybe it's good that I don't know a lot about hockey because I'm looking forward to watching these next few games and how it goes and plays out. But I've heard a lot of negative things about the ratings it's going to get.
Yeah, that is a concern. Obviously, the Golden Knights been there pretty recently, just won it back in 2023 against the Florida Panthers. So they're hoping to do it again in a pretty soon, like pretty close span. Obviously, the Knights are a younger franchise just coming around. I think 2013 is when they first got their official start as a NHL franchise. And the Canes, it's been a little bit longer, but obviously looking solid. One thing I do want to point out though is one of the leaders of that team, Seth Jarvis, is making as a starter obviously for this Canes team. Um, Not a huge fan of him. Just wanted to put that out there. I know he's like a fan favorite of the NHL. Who doesn't love Seth Jarvis, but I don't. Don't know why I wanted to
I,
bring that up. I just,
Gotta say, apparently not you.
I'm not one of them.
yeah, I'm not one of them.
LeBron James.
I'm not on the Seth Jarvis bandwagon. Just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah, obviously utter dominance by the Golden Knights here. It's gonna um both teams are looking really hot right now, so it's looking to be a good Stanley Cup. Obviously, like I said, I don't really follow hockey very much, but hopefully it's just a good series overall. Do you guys have any picks for that?
Um, I don't really know. I think seeing the Golden Knights kind of win would be cool, just because, like Justin kind of covered, their younger franchise, and I don't know, they seem like they're more entertaining to watch, especially since they're 2 hours from where I live. So I seem to see a lot more Golden Knights fans out here since the Coyotes have left. That's kind of been the team everyone's switched over to. So I think it'd be fun to kind of see a team closer to us win one.
I do want to make a prediction on who I think will win. Obviously, I know that no matter who I pick, the other team's gonna win. But I would want to say the Golden Knights too. They've looked really hot. They looked really good against one of the better teams in the NHL. They have some studs on that team, including Jack Eichel, which who was kind of slow to start the playoffs, but has kind of picked it back up. So obviously, I think the Golden Knights got it, especially as a avid uh not hate I wouldn't say hater, but just not a fan of Seth Jarvis. Got to go with the Knights.
All right. I'll pick the Knights too. Just because they just swept and they've looked pretty hot throughout the playoffs. Um, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I don't care if they fight, if any of them have good sight, or if tonight's the night. Give me the Knights in 6.
All right.
So if we're good on that, we're gonna move over to the NBA. Speaking of the NBA, the Spurs just won and are going to the NBA Finals to play the Knicks. That's a good way to start off. Wemby's currently, freaking out, crying. This is obviously big for the Spurs, especially this
Let's
is their
Wemby,
team.
let's go. My prediction was better than your guys's. I finally won one.
Wemby's going crazy right now.
He is going insane. It's wild. I mean, he deserves it. He worked so hard the last 2 years, and I'm sure he's a big Thunder hater from what it seems like.
Yeah,
So
what's
it
Wemby?
probably means more to him.
Yeah, I did. I did say the Thunder were gonna win it. Obviously, knowing their background and being a former champion last year and being able to play the Game 7 at home would be a big, you know, positive to this team. Obviously, we weren't able to close it out tonight. You have a Spurs team that just kind of seemed like they wanted it more. They've been on all night, been on huge runs, and never really were down or felt like they had their backs against the wall. Obviously, a little bit closer towards the end, but this is a solid team. We're going to be in for a good NBA Finals, so that's going to be a good thing for all NBA fans around the world.
Yeah, what a series, what a final game. Came down to the wire there. Um, it'll be nice to see a new team win, obviously. Uh,
He's going crazy.
obviously the Spurs are gonna match up with the Knicks now. Um, yeah, but maybe Justin will have to pick the Dodgers to win the World Series now because all his picks seem to lose all the time. But um, yeah,
Trust me, I know ball. I don't know what's going on with my picks. Maybe I don't. Just want to put that out there that I did project last year, beginning of last year, Evan Mobley would win Defensive Player of the Year. So just wanted to put that out there that I do know some ball.
I was there when he made this prediction in Cleveland.
This is
Dude,
true.
oh man. I'm just happy I finally made one correct prediction, and honestly, I wasn't even really that hopeful in my prediction just because the Thunder looked like a really hard team to beat. In this game too, I mean, I feel like San Antonio went on a lot of runs, kind of got really far ahead multiple times, and the Thunder still wouldn't stay down. They kept coming back and kept tying the game or getting within three, and it was a lot closer than it felt like it actually was.
Yeah, exactly. And this kind of ties into a little bit of what we had on the schedule for today. They will be playing the Knicks in the NBA Finals. I did want to point out that it recently the news broke that Mitchell Robinson did break one of his fingers, I believe his pinky. So this is going to be interesting for this finals matchup. How do you think that this injury affects the Knicks? And is this going to be, what do you guys think of who's going to win?
yeah, obviously with the Mitchell Robinson injury, I don't know how many games he'll miss. But man, that's a huge blow to the Knicks, especially with Wemby, gonna be the main scorer of this Spurs team. I don't really know who they have on their roster that can really guard him. Obviously, Cat is there. Um, but I mean, if he's out of the game, I don't know who's gonna be guarding Wemby.
Yeah, don't really have a lot to go off that. I will make a prediction though, and I think the Spurs get it in six. I think I've kind of put down that Knicks team and said that it wasn't going to be close, and I don't think it's going to be that close, but I think they're still a tough team, and they're not going to go out without a fight. I think they could put up 6 games.
That's a that's a pretty good take. I do kind of want to build off what Gabe was saying about the injury. Um, I did see ESPN, I believe it was, talking about how if you want someone to get injured, you want it to be Mitchell Robinson, which I, think is kind of a crazy take. Obviously, he is kind of, um, underwhelming when it comes to mid range, when it comes to threes. Obviously, he's a very big paint presence, but for someone that's like kind of been a defensive anchor for this team, this is going to be kind of a large blow for them. I'd say Cat obviously can play some pretty good defense, but he's no defensive player of the year, especially having to guard Wemby. I think this Knicks team is fairly undersized, especially matching up against this Spurs team. So that's going to be interesting. It's all going to come down to what players can make the plays at the right time. Like who's going to be the hero of the series? Who's because obviously Jalen Brunson's going to get his. this Wemby's going to get his, but who's going to be that one player each night that's going to be able to take the game into their hands and be able to overcome the crowd, be able to overcome the moment and just put their stamp on the game. This is a Knicks team I've been high on recently, especially with their wins and how they've been blowing teams out. But honestly, I think especially with the statement win tonight that the Spurs had, I think the Spurs do take it.
Yeah, if I had to guess, the Spurs will probably be favored in the series. I don't know. I feel like the Thunder were obviously the hardest team they're gonna have to play. Um, so with all that, I would have to pick the Spurs as well. Six seems like a good number. I'm gonna take them in five though and be bold just because I feel like they're that good and um, I know the Knicks have been hot and I've underestimated them in every series they've played this playoffs so far, but I'm gonna take the Spurs.
Yeah, for sure. I think I was leaning 5 games, but I think, like you kind of said, it's just in the last couple series they've played. I've really underestimated how good they were and how dominant they've been. And I don't think they're going to have the same outcomes as the last games. Like, I think when they win, it won't be by a lot. They won't really get ahead of the Spurs by much. But, I don't want to get caught a third time going, like, betting against the Knicks. So I'll say, I mean, I'm betting against them, but I'll say six just to be safe.
Yeah, you guys got any more to add on? I guess we should talk about what it looks like for the Thunder in the future after this loss. I don't really know how their contract situation goes. I know they obviously have a lot of young players. Um, I didn't really look much into it before this just because we obviously didn't know who was gonna win, but um, I mean, do you guys have anything about what this Thunder's future might look like?
This is a very solid Thunder team. There's not really much to do. I've seen they've talking about trading up in the draft. They already have a really good pick this year's draft. I don't really think there's much to do. Obviously, keeping this core together, making sure that J Dub stays healthy, and making sure that this team can still be go out there and compete on a nightly basis, and keep doing what they've been doing. Obviously, tough loss against the Spurs, but it is the Spurs. Um, bounce back next year. I think if it comes down to it again, maybe the Thunder can take it next year.
Yeah, I think these two teams will be kind of the top of the league for the next few seasons that we see. I don't really know if they want to change much about what's going on, but yeah, I don't really have anything to add. I think Justin covered it.
All right. If you guys are good, we can talk about the last little bit of NBA news we have with the um Magic hiring their new coach, Sean Sweeney, who's an assistant on the Spurs. Do you think this is like any impactful thing that, is gonna like turn them around, or you think it's just, a building block that they needed to kind of get them going in the right direction after kind of a disappointing year?
Obviously, the Magic had Jamal Mosley, who I thought was a really decent head coach. But when you're getting someone from the Spurs, who are now currently going to um, the NBA Finals, is obviously going to be big for this Magic team. They're gonna get a coach that's gonna have been in the finals last season, that knows what it's like to get there, who have coached Wemby, who have coached Six Man of the Year, who've coached Devin Vassell, Stephon Castle. This is a huge improvement. I mean, obviously we don't really know exactly what he's going to be like as a head coach, but this is a solid Magic team. I think he can do great job if he locks in.
Yeah, I think it's a good move. I think his goal should kind of be to build a better offense. You've seen what he's done in the last couple of years, the last teams he's been with, and just the dominant defenses he's been able to build, top three contending defenses consistently. I think you just because the Magic have a decent defense, I think you kind of want to go out and look for some offensive weapons.
Exactly.
All right. Anything else you want to add about the NBA?
I think that's a solid place to end it. We got to watch an exciting Game 7, um, and we got to talk about the Magic's new coach. So I think it's time that we get into the best segment of all time, the 2001 World Series of segments, three up, three down. I'm gonna kick it over to my co-host, a look-alike Randy Johnson, plays like Randy Johnson, perfect game like Randy Johnson co-host, Gabe Watubowitz, to explain what's going on here.
Um, yeah. So obviously we've done this in every episode we've had, so there's not much explanation to be had, but if you haven't seen it before, you'll catch along pretty quick. We're just gonna each say three things that we think were ups or like three good things that happened since last time we came on here, and then three things that are downs or like obviously like bad things that happen. And we each just take turns and talk about it. So I'm gonna give it to Max to start his ups.
All right. Thank you, Gabe, for passing over to me. For my first up, how could I not put this one on here? I've been glazing him from the start when we first started recording. Brian Reynolds walk-off home run against the Twins. I know it wasn't really like, a crazy, like there wasn't really anything on the line this game. It is a close central, so maybe it could change the tide of this. They did win today too, but I mean, I've been wanting to see Brian Reynolds kind of heat up. He's had a decent season so far. We saw Ketel Marte at a walk-off bomb, and he's kind of just been on an absolute tear. So I'm hoping to see the same thing. He didn't really have that good of a game today, but it was absolutely hype. I was watching this game. They were down one. He comes in, he hits a two-run bomb, and it was just, I was ecstatic. I was watching this game live, and I was so happy.
You are a Pirates fan, so that's obviously big news for you. Glad to see it, especially after Gabe talking about how bad Brian Reynolds' defense has been as of recently. But obviously to see like who doesn't want to hit a walk off. I can almost guarantee you Max has been in his backyard or playing wiffle ball somewhere and had that moment where he could step up and hit a walk off, and to get well like be able to watch someone on your favorite team go up there and do it is obviously huge, especially for from a fan's perspective.
Yeah, like Max said, there wasn't a whole lot on the line for this game, like compared to like, playoff race or something. But yeah, the Pirates have been a fun team this year. Brian Reynolds' offense has been looking good. Um, might be making up for his defense out there, but um, yeah, it was a fun swing. You know, hopefully the Pirates can keep that momentum in that tough Central, tough NL wild card race. I know Skeens has been struggling a little bit, but if their offense is going to pick him up, then that's a good thing, obviously.
Yeah, for sure. I think that was kind of what we've lacked too. So just glad to see everyone's got some good offensive work going. For my next down, or not down again, for my next up, I kind of covered this in my last up, but just Ketel Marte has been on a tear ever since, he kind of came up clutch after in that walk off against the Giants. I just think, it's always fun to see a guy like Marte just doing what he's been doing the last, 10 years of his career and just hit. He's an absolute dog, and I mean, how can you not like the guy?
As a Diamondbacks fan myself too, you love to see it. I was watching that game with Max when that happened, that walk off, and I remember telling Max that he lost all his aura because when he took his helmet off, you just see his bald head ever since he cut the dreads. But obviously, as a joke, but he's kind of turned up since then, so he gained all his aura back, and it's obviously big for a Diamondbacks team who needs someone like him to hit, especially with how he started the season. He started decent, not standard Ketel Marte stuff, but him to get into the groove now and win National League Player of the month last month or whenever we just won it is obviously huge.
Yeah, he's got his batting average up to 271 now. His OPS is at 793. Obviously been a staple of the D-backs ever since he got here. Won NLCS MVP in 23, and then has gone MVP votes in the last 2 years. So obviously he's big staple here. D-backs aren't going to win if he's not playing good, so it's good to see him finally get going again.
Yeah,
Yeah, that walk off home run really ignited the Marte Parte. You know what I'm saying?
for sure. And I had to change it up because it just happened, but I'm putting Wemby going to the finals as my third up because I've been wanting to see the Spurs go to the finals. I didn't want to see another Thunder run. and I'm just happy that Wemby gets to finally get the get a finals experience.
Exactly. He's been in the league, not too long now. But obviously being this young, making it only 22 years old, carrying your not carrying leading your team to the finals, obviously huge. Good thing that the Thunder didn't have anyone like Ray Allen to come hit a big three to send the Spurs home. But obviously we'll see what Wemby can do in a finals setting.
Yeah, good thing the Spurs got that number one pick when they did and didn't end up with Zachary Risochet. Um, but yeah, obviously he's gonna be a top player in the league, probably top three range at least, for a long time to come. So it's fun to watch him already this early in his career have these big playoff moments.
Exactly. I Who doesn't like Wemby? One thing I do got to mention though is it's kind of a down, but if he starts to play insane and become that MVP level player, it's going to be a while until there's another US born MVP. So it's just going to keep the streak up of international players, and I want to see a USA player win MVP again.
Yeah, for sure. All right, well, if you guys got nothing else to cover, I'm gonna pass it to my boy who's got drip that is second to none. He can rock a tennis chain better than I've seen anybody ever do it. I'm passing it to my boy Justin.
Yes, sir. I love the intro. Gabe knows what you're talking about because we have to turn the lights off in here because it's shining so bright in his eyes. He can't see anything. So I appreciate that. My first up this today is going to be Aaron Brewer of the Arizona Cardinals. He's there. He's been their long snapper for the past 10 seasons. He's going to have a big season this year. Obviously, the Cardinals don't have much going on, but having a long snapper like him is going to obviously be huge for this Cardinals team.
Wow, we must have been a hard task to find downs this or to find ups this week if we're gonna bring up Arizona Cardinal long snappers, but um yeah, that's a fire up again. Why?
I mean, hey, there wasn't a lot going on until tonight this week, so I'm just glad you were able to pull something, Justin. Happy to see the Cardinals are getting another addition to their team.
Yes, sir. Who doesn't love a long snapper shout out? Next up, we got Francis Tiafoe. He's moving on to round four at Roland Garros, the French Open. It's obviously huge. As a fan of Francis, I'm not a huge tennis guy, but I really liked him ever since I think it was Wimbledon maybe or U.S. Open. He went on a little crazy run, and ever since then, I kind of watch his career every now and then, and to see him moving on over some of the bigger stars in the league, it's pretty exciting to see. Hopefully, he can carry that momentum into the fourth round and even maybe to a championship.
Yeah, man, you're gonna get me into watching some tennis just to keep up with all this because I haven't really been that good at keeping up with it. But I'm glad we got other sports to talk about since it was kind of a slow week.
Yeah, I don't really watch tennis either. The only time I keep up with it is when I get like ESPN notifications or something. I did see that there's no former champions left in, or there wasn't. So that's exciting to see some new champions come around. But I'm glad some unique positions in sports are getting some shout outs this week.
Yeah, Justin just knows ball so well.
My ups have been off the chain. Shout out Max. This week. So, they haven't known much about the first two, so this last one's gonna be pretty this next one's gonna be like pretty advanced level ball knowledge. We got the Golden Knights going to the Stanley Cup finals, just playing, how to butter it up a little bit. But it's their first time since 2023 going to the Stanley Cup finals. They won it back then. Obviously, they have another chance to win it this year. Um, like kind of like Max said, they're really close to home ever since the Coyotes left. But another big reason why I kind of want to point this out is because one of the main reasons that the Coyotes left, everybody was talking about how hockey doesn't belong in the desert, but clearly it can thrive in the desert if the owner is good enough to make it thrive.
Yeah, for sure. It's been fun to watch them throughout the playoffs. Like Justin kind of covered earlier, we were shocked to see the outcome against the Avalanche. I mean, I don't think any of us really expected it to go that way, let alone, I thought the Avalanche was going to win. I didn't even think that series was going to end that quickly, but I think if you have a team that can dominate the Avalanche as well as they did, I think they can go on to win the whole thing.
Yeah, it looks like the Hurricanes are favored as of now. Um, they're favored in game one as well. Um, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, obviously getting three sports in here, or not three sports, I guess, but three things that don't really get much um run in the ups and downs usually. But yeah, I mean, we already talked about it, gave our picks, but yeah, I'm excited for them.
So next up, I guess I already gave this guy an introduction, praying on he hits a bird this year to be even more like Randy Johnson. Gabriel Watubowicz.
Yeah, my first up is gonna be Christopher Sanchez. He broke the Phillies scoreless inning streak. He's at 44 and two-thirds innings without giving up a run. Like I said, he set the Phillies record. He's just looked like a stud all year. Probably some people's front runner to win Cy Young right now. Got an ERA under two. Just been a pivotal part of this Phillies team that's looking to turn their season around and get back into the playoff race.
For sure, great up. I mean, how can you not talk about this guy and just what he's done for the Phillies when they were down? We thought they were kind of just done this season. We didn't really think they'd be able to make this bounce back they've been able to, and I don't think they would have done it without him.
Exactly, and he's almost a arguably better pitcher than Mason Miller is right now. So big up for fans around the world.
I want to say all that.
Gabe would never disrespect Mason Miller, even if he was having like the worst season ever,
um, yeah, well, he's the GOAT.
because he has diabetes.
But anyways, my next up is gonna be UW Milwaukee baseball. Um, they came into the Auburn regional as the four seed in that regional, having to take on the number four ranked Auburn Tigers at home, and they end up beating them 13-8. It's just huge four seed taking down a top five ranked team in the whole nation. And now they're playing UCF right now. They're up 10-6 in the seventh, looking to stay undefeated and having to play whoever wins out the losers bracket, which will be huge for them because they'll have to lose twice. But to just see a small school like that take down two big schools to become the 2-0 team in that regional is pretty huge.
That's a great up, man. I think, it's fun. We've got a college baseball playoffs going on right now, and it's always fun to see, a team you weren't expecting to put on a performance like that to take down the Auburn Tigers, come out and beat them, score 13 on them. It's a fun up.
Yeah, exactly. When, looking at college sports, this seems to be a common theme, especially in like March Madness. These teams that you don't expect to come in and do something all that crazy, and they go in and they kind of shock the world. As for like, speaking more specifically on NBA and NHL playoffs, obviously, or geez, Spurs, Knicks, obviously, kind of could have predicted that. Those are two of the best teams on their respective sides of the conferences. And Knights, Canes, obviously, Knights a little bit less, but Canes are one of the best teams in the league. So being able to see a team that isn't a big name or big talent, not talent, but like bringing in huge talent is obviously a lot of fun to see if you're a big college sports fan.
Yeah, it's always fun to see an underdog like that win, so I thought I'd shout him out real quick. Hopefully they can win that regional. And then my last up obviously is going to be the Spurs. I know Max shouted out Wemby, but they really did play a good team brand of basketball today. Um, Held the Thunder to 103 points. They had seven players in double digits. Just a good team win. Now they're going to the finals to play the Knicks.
For sure. Can't wait to come back and break down this upcoming series, and we got a couple fun weeks of sports going on.
I agree.
Yeah, so that's all three of my ups. Pretty quick ones, but yeah, I'll have to give it back to Justin to do the downs because I know he loves covering those.
Uh, you know, who doesn't like covering the downs, especially if they're goofy, but um First up, I have the Diamondbacks. They got walked off by this Mariners team. Like kind of like Gabe said, they had bases loaded at the top of the ninth. Luckily, they caught a break and Josh Naylor, tripping over his cankles, trying to go for that ball, but um, being able to close out a game like that, they had Tommy Troy come up to the plate. Obviously, wasn't able to bring in another run. They were able to get out of the bottom of the ninth without letting up a run, but obviously getting those couple runs in would have been big for this team, especially if they wanted to win that game last night. Also, kind of a down because I was watching that game and I mentioned I really liked Randy Rosarena's bat flip and I like him as a player. And I figured he was going to walk it off if it would be anybody after they intentionally walked Josh Naylor, and he did just that. So that's kind of a bummer.
Yeah. Obviously, I got my hopes up for them when they thrust themselves back into playoff position recently, but they just played 11 consecutive games against the Giants and Rockies. So, not the best teams, but they're down right now to the Mariners again. I watched like the last 3 innings of that game last night just for them to get walked off. It was pretty devastating.
Yeah, I could definitely tell we were gonna have two different, conversations about last night because I know what was it? There was like a record of it was like the most walk-off home runs since I don't know, it's been a while. It was four walk-off home runs last night, and unfortunately, the D-backs had to be on the receiving end of one, and not fun to see. At least, I got to experience one fun walk-off before I saw that one.
It is unfortunate, um, especially when you're letting up two home runs to JP Crawford. But going on to my next down, I have Brendan Sorsby. Um, he placed over 9,000 bets, totaling $90,000. And he's potentially going to be banned permanently from the NCAA. So he's going to trial soon, and we'll see how that comes and plays out.
Wow, I didn't even know about that one.
Yeah. That's actually a good down. I didn't think to put that, but the sports betting has kind of gone out of hand. A lot of players are getting caught with it recently. Um, he was a huge transfer in the offseason, so that kind of sucks for Texas Tech to potentially lose their starting quarterback. But I guess we'll have to see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully it doesn't affect him too much. I mean, like you kind of said, it was a big move on the offseason for Texas Tech that would really kind of screw him over. Uh, yeah, that sucks. I didn't even know about that one. This is the first time I'm hearing about it.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy, especially when you have people like Emmanuel Classe and stuff going down recently for betting scandals. It's kind of
Yeah,
sad to see it in college.
yeah. I mean,
Uh,
Shohei Ohtani can go do it because he's the face of baseball, and then we're just gonna say it was his interpreter. But bro,
we My last down is Josh Sweat for the Arizona Cardinals D line. There's been reports coming out that he hasn't been too happy with this offseason or being on the Cardinals. He's kind of like that joke about Woody on Toy Story, like I don't want you anymore. Kind of just not wanting to be a part of the Cardinals. I know one of the big reasons he did end up signing here in free agency was because of Jonathan Gannon being the head coach, and now that he got fired and is now the Green Bay Packers defensive coordinator, it kind of seems like there's a little bit of inner turmoil going on with the Cardinals. They've had Jacoby Brissett, they've had Josh Sweat now not showing up to OTAs, and the potential Frohort, who was here just because of Drew Petzing, could be another possible domino to fall.
Uh, yeah, I bet that's kind of annoying to deal with. I mean, I feel like with Jacoby Brissett not showing up, it's kind of just going to start becoming a thing with more players getting involved and speaking out with how they feel about being with the Cardinals, and you're kind of seeing it right now. I'm sure it was kind of you don't really want to come back after, losing the guy that brought you there, and then just the season they had last year, and you don't really know how this upcoming season is going to play out. So if he wants out, I mean, makes sense, but I feel like it's kind of annoying as a fan of a team to kind of watch these guys come out and say they're not happy where they're at.
Yeah, I don't. I still feel like the Cardinals should just, if they can get rid of him and get something for him, That'd be nice just because, the more they lose, the better pick they'll have, obviously. And this draft class seems to have a lot of good QBs in it that can come in and hopefully help the Cardinals. So, whatever picks they can get, if they can get a year two Jeremiah Love next year with a rookie quarterback and, maybe an improved Marvin Harrison Jr. and, like Justin said, some new coaching, you know, hopefully they can build off of some of these lackluster seasons they've had recently. But only time will tell.
Couldn't have said it better myself. I do want to give Max the introduction he does deserve, but we are going into the down, so it would kind of seem weird. So we'll take a rain check on that. He does really give this news very somberly, so that is a little bit of a positive. So let's see Max's downs for the week.
Don't worry, it's nothing too sad this time around, but we kind of talked about it earlier, but just Paul Skeen's last three starts, kind of just, the guy we need to be there and step up. He's had a decent season so far, but he has had some rocky. He's been just up and down. I feel like he's been really good and then comes out and kind of just gets hit around. I think we need him to step up to kind of, get over this whole NL Central thing going on where it's all within two games except first place. And if he could really step up, we've got Jared Jones back and Mitch Keller's been all right. He had kind of a rough start the last time he pitched, which was I think he had a rocky start today, giving up 5 runs to the Twins. But I think just him not really coming out like he has been the last two years is kind of unfortunate to see. We need him, especially with this team that has an offense. They just need what was working for him before, and I think they'll be able to take second or potentially first in the Central.
Yeah, this team's offense has looked a lot better than in the past. They're fifth in runs scored per game. They're only 3 games over 500, but they're right in the thick of the wild card race, 4 games behind the Brewers for the division. Like Mike said, they're getting Jared Jones back. Mitch Keller did get absolutely shelled today. He gave up 7 runs in 4 innings, but the offense picked him up and scored 10 to beat the Twins. Um, so, if they can get some of that pitching back, and just get Paul Skeens looking like himself. He's almost got an ERA at 3 now, which is kind of hard to believe. But yeah, I know Braxton Ashcraft has looked really good, um, and the bullpen has looked decent. So if they can just get the rotation looking like it usually does, I think they'll be fine.
Exactly. There's no need to worry about Paul Skeens. We've seen what he can do the past couple seasons. We know that everyone has their up and downs, especially during seasons, but I don't think it's anything to be worried about, especially at this point. I know they don't play the same position, but it's kind of crazy to think that I'd rather have Paul Sewald out there on the mound rather than Paul Skeens this season. I'm just playing on that one, but Paul for Paul. Um,
Ball for
but yeah,
ball.
yeah, but obviously, I bet you, and I can pretty much guarantee you that Paul Skeens will get his cleats back under him and be able to finish out the season strong.
Yeah, for sure. If you guys got nothing else to add on to that one, the next one I have is, and I might botch the pronunciation, but Jakub Dobish's uh just his series against the Hurricanes. Like we covered, he was dominant throughout the playoffs, and then giving up 5 goals up until the series against the Canes, and then he gives up 15. Kind of just a rough series for him. You kind of need your guy that's been dominant to step up against a good team like the Canes, and he just kind of didn't really. He wasn't really that same goalie we had throughout the playoffs.
Yeah, it seemed kind of after that first game that they might be able to make a little bit of a deeper run, better push for the Stanley Cup Finals, but obviously they weren't able to, and it's sad to see a season come to an end like that, especially with how he's been playing. But obviously there's next season he can just continue to improve and show that he's one of the top in the league.
Yeah, I mean, it was just rough. They kind of looked dominant in the first game, and then, like Justin said, and then they only did score 3 goals in the next two in overtime games, which isn't terrible, but. To win the next four is pretty devastating. And then Hurricanes and Golden Knights both win, four of their last four games to get to the Stanley Cup final, and now here we are.
Yeah. All right. And for my last down, I have a fun one. I'm not bringing sad ones today, but Joey Chestnut got put on probation. I think I kind of talked about it a little bit last week, but I didn't really set it as a down. But he's on probation now for, I believe, slapping someone in a bar. But he's still going to be able to compete in the Nathan's hot dog eating contest this year.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy to think that Joey Chestnut, he seems like a very family oriented man. Obviously someone that's really good at putting hot dogs down. Um, it's sad to see, him going out and just putting his hands on people, but we're luckily going to be able to see the throat goat be able to participate in the the Nathan's hot dog eating contest. Hopefully he can reign, like, continue to reign and win that title year after year. And maybe if he keeps having issues like this, someone might need to take the title. I know Gabe can eat a pretty good amount. Maybe Gabe could go to the Nathan's hot dog eating contest and see how many glizzies he could put down.
Gabe is the throat goat of Mesa, Arizona.
And I'd have to eat them without the buns on.
Nah, you'll just need to shoot up.
He did throw a perfect game, and I bet after a game like that, you have a big appetite. So maybe that year he could have done it.
Yeah.
You
All
have
right.
anything on that, Gabe?
I mean, I don't think I'd stand a chance, but I like the variety of events and sports we're covering right now. It really makes me it really makes me smile and happy to see all the different types of coverage we got going right now.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if you got nothing else to add, I'm gonna pass it to. I don't think I really can up the intro Justin gave him, but the Randy Johnson of Mesa, Arizona, Gabe Wotulowitz, everybody.
Yes, sir.
All right. My first down is kind of an interesting one, but Kendall George, he's in the minor leagues for the Dodgers. They were playing a game and he
Oh,
had to jump over the bat dog as it was kind of like crossing in front of him, and it ended up severely injuring his knee. Um, so I mean that was just kind of random. I mean to get injured like that is pretty sad to see. But yeah.
yeah, I saw the clips of it, all over the place. I told Reese about it, and she goes, "Are they gonna put the dog down?" I was like, "No." Didn't they suspend him though? They did something
Yeah,
funny.
they suspended the dog.
Yeah, it was unfortunate. You never want to see it, especially when a team is doing something fun that you don't see a lot, which is having a bad dog. It kind of sucks. I bet fans love it and it's fun to have around, but stuff like that can happen.
Yeah, it's kind of a bummer. You don't want to see anyone get injured. But if anyone can be able to overcome that, it's obviously going to be the Dodgers. Usually he's a player that does have that dog in him. Unfortunately, today the dog was in front of him, causing a knee injury. I did watch the clip a couple times. I don't exactly know like what happened or when the injury like exactly occurred, if it was on the plant or whatever. But um, seeing the bad dog injure you, could potentially be a sign that he's made of glass and might not be, you know, ready to play on the dog. And well, both the Hernandezes are out, so maybe he can follow suit.
Yeah, my second down, we kind of already covered them, but the two teams at the bottom of the AL Central, the Royals and the Tigers, are actually the two worst teams in the American League right now. I know they've both had their fair share of injuries, but kind of just with like the expectations, like I know he's injured, but they do have two of the top players in baseball, with Tariq Skubal and Bobby Witt Jr. Um, but to see that they're both the two worst teams in the AL. Um, Lucky for them, the AL is pretty bad, so they're both only about 7 games back of the final wild card spot. So over the course of how long the season is, they might be able to come back, but it's not looking really good for them right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty unfortunate when you have a guy who can cover, more of the earth than there is percentage of water on it, which is Bobby Witt Jr. To kind of just waste his talent, I guess, in Kansas City because he's just a guy you want to see win one, and he just the Royals haven't been able to really build around him.
Exactly. Starting off with the Tigers. it's unfortunate to see someone like Tarek Skubal go down, especially when you're like one of the top pitchers in the league, and then have your team go down. Obviously, I don't want to see anyone get injured, no matter who it is. But the Tigers being at the bottom of the division is kind of what they get for him costing us the World Baseball Classic by not pitching in it. Obviously, kind of wish it wasn't him getting injured, but you know,
Yeah, I'm sure if he didn't pitch that one game, he would be healthy right now.
Yeah, it's kind of ironic he missed it to stay healthy in his contract year and then he got hurt anyways.
Yeah, screw that guy.
and then obviously on the flip side of that, looking at the Royals, who, by the way, just shout out their ballpark. I think it looks really nice. Have a World Baseball Classic champion in Salvador Perez, coming up on the later years of his career, not being able to perform, especially when you have Bobby Witt and some people like Jack Caglione and Vinny Pasquantino, who are just super solid guys. Not being at the top of the division where they definitely could be.
Yeah, that's pretty much all I got on that. I know we already talked about it, but today or yesterday there was history in the NCAA baseball regionals, as the first ever nationally ranked number one team lost their opening regional game. UCLA lost to St. Mary's. And it was a close game, but you know, losing as the number one ranked team to a four seed in your own regional is pretty embarrassing, especially when it's never happened before. And then today, they were trailing Virginia Tech in the elimination game going into the ninth and had to score 2 runs to walk it off. So to see a number one, not even just a number one seed, but the number one seed to struggle like this early in the regionals, is kind of a concern, especially, you know, knowing the long road it takes to get to Omaha and eventually win a national championship. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, I mean it's pretty shocking. I was kind of watching UCLA throughout the whole season, and you really wouldn't have expected that outcome against St. Mary's to happen on the first game of the playoffs, and then to almost lose to Virginia Tech too. Like you said, it's just not promising, especially for that road you have to Omaha. It's pretty wild to see so far. I feel like UCLA's been dominant, and you wouldn't have expected this start for them.
Yeah, and you know, a famous person once said, "Big games, big plays, big players." Um, you know, obviously, in being a one game, you know, obviously, when you're playing one game at a time to move on in the playoffs, uh, if a team just gets hot on any night, you got to be able to overcome that. Obviously, they weren't able to, and that's the kind of stuff that's gonna help your season move on, is being able to be hot. And if a team is hot and you're struggling finding ways to get guys, you know, active and being able to control what you can control.
Yeah, I just wanted to shout that out just because it was history, but that's my last down. I like all the stuff we were able to talk about today. That was actually pretty fun. I didn't think I guess when you're that hard pressed to find some ups and downs, you gotta really dig deep. So I'm glad we were able to, but yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, it's fun, when we do have a week like this where there wasn't a lot going on, we were able to kind of dive deep and find some interesting stuff for our ups and downs.
Exactly, and this was um, you know, obviously this was a really fun week. You know, not knowing what anybody's gonna say, being able to dig deep into, you know, sports and finding stuff that is a little bit different from other weeks and not having much that really overlaps besides the Thunder going to, or the, excuse me, the Spurs going to the NBA finals. But we were kind of playing the podcast around that game, so it does make sense that that kind of wasn't up. So obviously great week for all.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised none of us overlapped any ups and downs. I mean, kind of like Max said Wemby, I said Spurs, but like outside of that, not really. That was kind of cool. But yeah, I'm excited to be back next week.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening, and I hope your week is magical. I guess.
See you guys.
Later.